Hello there, this is Bethany, retired funeral director turned dog groomer. 9 months ago, my man friend, our daughter and myself left our comfortable and established lifestyle in Ontario, Canada, for a life we always chatted about during morning coffee, fast-tracking our retirement plans, chasing our dreams, risking our future in the race against old age. We purchased 7 unseen acres in the wilderness of Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia. We downsized everything we owned, loaded up a trailer, our dog, 2 cats, ATV, and hauled it to our new land. What we knew for sure was our life was about to make a drastic change. What we didn't know was that we were relocating to the most gorgeous place we've ever seen. We took a chance and it was worth it. Join us as we navigate through our new RV lifestyle. New climate, new landscape, new wildlife, building a world we dreamed of in a place only seen in postcards from the ground up. Thanks for visiting and subscribe to my channel if you would enjoy the content of a 40-something gal running away into the woods with her family. That's pretty much what dreams are made of right there. How fun is this day? And how gorgeous. We're strolling around the Long Point. One of my favorite little strolls. When I started watching that show alone, I couldn't believe what I was watching. First of all, I was like, whoa, like really into it right from the get-go. And I actually looked at the thumbnail for that show like for many months before I actually clicked on it, because it just didn't do its justice. There's nothing else to do while I'm doing dishes in the kitchen. I might as well get into this show. And so that's when I would watch it mainly. It was when I was doing dishes in the kitchen or just before bed, an hour before bed. And so I got right into it. And from episode 1, I was rooting for a contestant on there, and her name was Kylan. I just felt this connection with her. It was this weird thing. And keep in mind that that show, that season in particular, had already aired like a long time ago. So they were done this competition and they were all home by this point. Like I was way behind, I was kind of catching up. In fact, I think they had already started a season 8 by the time I even knew about season 7. I have only ever watched season 7. I have not watched any of the others. I was rooting for her big time. And I didn't even realize until about, maybe the 3rd or 4th episode in, I actually looked down when they put their name on the screen and where they're from. And I looked down and I saw Espanola, Ontario. And I was like, whoa, this girl's from Ontario. Like, that's cool. And so I kind of Googled her. I realized that her and her husband had like a wilderness camp sort of thing where they offer excursions to people, go on these trips, you know, major trips like snow walking, traditional camp setup for a 2-week snowshoe walk through the wilderness. Like, it just was really amazing. And then I saw on their website that they had all these rental cabins. Not all these, like they had a rental tent kind of thing. They called it the Guesty, and then they had this little cabin, little bunkie. And I just read up all about her, and I was like, wow, she's awesome. You know, she's really, really awesome. And that was that. And then I continued watching the show. And again, I was right into it. Like, there were moments where I would have to stop watching the show, like hold the counter and just like breathe. Like, come on, get that fish. You know, like I was really following along and rooting for Kai. She was my girl. And she was like a hero to me. I was like, wow, I can't believe that she's just out there in the Arctic all by herself, like just living with nothing but a backpack and a few items in a bag, you know, and she's surviving out there. Like, wow. And then after the show was over, after I watched it all, I don't know, I just couldn't stop thinking about Kylan and their little company over in Espanola, and it's called Lure of the North. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And because it was 2020, nobody was doing anything. Nobody could travel anywhere. Everything was really restricted. But they, you know, I noticed on their website or on their Facebook page that obviously I started following right away, that they could still offer, you know, out like camping kind of on their property. From where I lived in Ontario to Espanola, it's a 7-hour drive north. But I don't know, I don't want to make it complicated or dramatic, and I'm trying to keep it short here, this story, but it's just so incredible. It's hard to keep it all together here. I was born in Elliott Lake, which is in northern Ontario. And when I looked it up, Elliott Lake was only, I think, I want to say 3 hours from Espanola, way up there in the wilderness too. And my mom and I was born in Elliott Lake, and my mom and my dad actually separated that first year, my first year. And she came back to southwestern Ontario, and my dad stayed up there. And so I've always like wanted to go to Elliott Lake because that's, you know, where I was born, and I thought it would be really cool. I've always thought it'd be cool to see my birthplace and where my mom and my dad had an apartment when they were together and So I brought it up to Manfred that I wanted to go and see if we could stay at Lure of the North for a weekend or something. You know, I just wanted to meet Kylan, and I wanted to experience a little bit of that lifestyle. They lived very off-grid in a remote area of northern Ontario. They live there. You can't drive to their property. You either have to quad in, boat in, snowshoe in, or snow machine in. And I think it's like, I want to say 6 kilometers into the woods, into the wilderness. I brought it up to Manfred that I wanted to reach out to them and see if we could rent their guesty, the tent. And it's wintertime-ish. Not wintertime yet. It's just before snow. And I thought maybe on that same road trip to stay there, we could extend the road trip and go to Elliott Lake and kind of make it a big deal. And Manfred was all aboard. I was surprised. And so I reached out on their website and heard back from Kylan's husband, Dave, and he's like, yeah, we rent those out. We booked a weekend to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see this girl. Manfred and I drove to Elliott Lakes, met up with a friend of mine that used to be from where we were in Ontario, and he moved up there. And so we met up with them and had dinner with them. And then on the way back, we stopped for our time at Lure of the North. And when I arrived there, we literally had to park our truck on some back road off the beaten path, just like the one we live on. And we just had to park our vehicle there, unload our quad, and take our quad in, because Yeah, and Dave met us at the road there and then let us into their property, and I was just blown away at how wild it was. Like, we were into the thick of it. It was so nerve-wracking a little bit because I'm not used to bears. I'm not used to their kind of wildlife. I'm scared of beaver dams collapsing on me, and there's a lot of them they have out there that are really intense. The trails are, not maintained at all. So if you go the wrong way, it's like, oh boy, you could get lost very easily. But anyway, long story short, we stayed at Lure of the North and had the most magical time. And we stayed in a tent, and we had to run the wood stove, and they left us alone, but also included us in a couple dinners with them. And of course, she sat down and had tea with me, and I really asked her all the questions I've wanted to ask her. What are you doing? Anywho, so after that weekend, after meeting her, I realized that that's the kind of life I would love, and Manfred too, he's like, yeah, we need to do this sooner than later. I don't know how to explain it. I just got hooked right away. Like, I really, really, when we left there, I was really sad, but also excited because I knew that's what we're aiming for, to live like that. We are not off grid here. I think if we didn't have a work to do still, we could probably do that off grid, but we're what we like to call semi off grid. We do have power that was installed, not for the first several months of being here. Like, we did live completely off grid, but it costs a lot of money to fill up your propanes and your fuel and run generators and that. And so when we got power, it really was a game changer. And so I give Kylan and Dave credit for all these years being off grid. Like, they were really off grid at the start too. They now have a beautiful cabin, and I've actually been to Lure of the North twice now, and I absolutely love her. Like, I love her. I've always known that I had this like connection with her, So it's been 3 years, and I still stay in touch with her. As a matter of fact, after she completed the season 7 of Alone, without getting into too much of her story, she and her husband decided to do a 90-day snowshoe adventure through all across northern Ontario. They were 90 days out there in the wild. Just wow, you should really go and follow them on their social media and get all caught up, because what they do is incredible. More brave than me. And they did that 90-day snowshoe walk. She reached out to me and asked if I would take care of her dog for that time and bring her dog to my place. If I had the means, I would have gone to Lure and just stayed at Lure for that whole time with their land and their animals, but I had work to do at home. So, but anyway, I picked up their dog, and we met halfway, and I picked up their dog and brought him to my house, and he stayed with me for 3 months, and it was beautiful. It was like, I can't believe Hank is at my house, and he slept in my bed, and him and Tia got along perfectly. Like, they were like, it was like they'd always known each other. So she offered me a trip with her to do one of their trips, in lieu of looking after Hank. She also gave me a beautiful gift and all that too, but they offered to bring me along on a snowshoe walk. It's like a 5-day for people that are inexperienced like me. But it's so incredible. So I, of course, was like, yes, I'm doing that. But that spring we were moving to Cape Breton, and it was just a really bad timing. We had to preserve every penny that we had. We were getting rid of things. We were packing and planning and living out of suitcases almost for a month and a half, and then we were on our way here. And so I had to forego that trip, and I have always said I will go back someday and do that wilderness walk with Kylan. Like, what a dream come true. So that's probably the only thing I have left on my bucket list. I've done all the other things that I said I have ever wanted to do, but except that. So anyway, she's become a good friend of mine. I would do anything for her if I could, and I've invited her here, obviously, but she was a big, huge inspiration for me to make this big, giant, drastic step to living like this. And she continues to inspire me all the time, her and Dave. I fell in love with her dog, and now I have a really deep connection with Hank. Anyway, one day I will get back to Northern Ontario. I will do that snowshoe walk with my hero. And and I just want to tell you, I don't want to give away all our secrets, but she does reach out once in a while asking if I could come to Lure and look after the homestead while they do a certain trip. So she's reached out for, offering me the chance to do that for them before anyone else. And it's an honor. Like, I got goosebumps just thinking about it right now, that she would trust me enough to look after their home and their animals. And to see her again would be amazing. So this lifestyle change literally came about for me, like, in a drastic way, when I started watching that show, when I started following Kylan. So that's where, on my personal private trail that I have over at the sanctuary, that trail, that's why I have Kai's Rock, because when I stayed at Lure the North, there was a rock there on one of their trails, and every day I would go with Hank. Hank hung out with me the whole time we would be at Lure. He would just hang out with me and go hiking with me. I just love that dog so much. I would always miss Tia so much while I was with him over there. I'd be like, oh, Tia should be here. I feel like I'm cheating on Tia with Hank. But anyway, there was a rock on the trail, and every morning I would go and sit on that rock and have coffee and just look out at their paradise and be like, wow, this is incredible. I want to live like this. I want a trail. I want a rock. I want all these things. And later on, as I got chatting with her, I told her, I said, oh, I love this. There's a rock on this trail that you have up there. And she goes, I know, I go up there all the time. Like, it's a beautiful place to stop and look out. And so when we moved here right away, I was like, I need a Kai's Rock. So that's where I got the name Kai's Rock. I have a lot of their things. I have coffee mugs. I have buffs. When she was on the show alone, she always wore this Lure the North buff. And I ordered one right away once I got familiar with everything that they do and offer and sell. I'm like, I need a Kylan buff. And so I got 2 of them plus another one. And then when I watched Hank while they were on their 90-day snowshoe walk, they actually called it the big toe. And she gifted me one of their exclusive just for people that did the big toe buff. So I got it on today, actually. I switch it up. And then when we stayed there, the day before we went home, I think her and Dave had us up to their cabin for dinner, and it was beautiful. She made beaver pot pie. It was so delicious. And when I walked in, she had a Hank and Lenny limited edition buff, Lure the North special buff that she got made by her supplier as a gift. And she gifted me one. I was almost like, I was probably in tears, like tearing up when I saw it. I remember just being like, oh, is that for me? Like, oh my God. So I have multiple buffs. I have mugs. I have stickers. I have a set of snowshoes that is still not made yet. You can buy these kits, snowshoe kits, moccasin kits, anorak kits, and you can make your own. But they also have workshops where you can go there and they will walk you through it, and you do these workshops where you're making these things that you know how to make them and you know how to fix them. That's the benefit of having your own homemade equipment. I do have a set of snowshoes that are modern, but if they broke on me, I wouldn't know how to fix them. So anyway, I did buy one of the kits of the snowshoes, the bear paw snowshoe, I think they call them, the rounder ones, and they're partially started. So I really should finish those and do it justice. I need to get those snowshoes done. So that's, there you have it. So you can get inspiration and it could change your life. I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube videos where I get a lot of inspiration by them. I learn a lot. I love YouTube for that. I just love YouTube for the entertainment too, but I do learn a lot. And so that's why I kind of wanted to do my own little channel, because I hope that maybe even one person could be inspired to just follow your dreams. Like, really, just do it. Like, just do it. Try it. I mean, it could be the best thing that ever happens to you. You know? So a big thanks and shout out to my dear, dear friend Kai. I don't even know if she watches these videos, but someday she may catch up with this one and see it. And I just want you to know, Kai, that I love you very much. And I can't wait to do that magical snowshoe walk with you to Mount Ararat. They have a mountain behind their property. You hike to that mountain, you hike up the mountain, you give yourself a high five, and you hike down, and you're camping in the wild the whole time and snowshoe walking. I mean, someday we will be doing that. I will be doing that with you, Kai. And I have my own mountain to climb now. It's called Squirrel Mountain. See that bad boy right there? This summer, I'm gonna get to the top of that mountain. If it kills me. And it might. Stick around for that. That might be entertaining.